9-3 homework out of the way. We got 1 through 26 and 29 and 32. So on 1 through 4, determine the number of real solutions of the equation and solve the equation using square roots. Well, we know from our lesson when we have x squared equals 25 that we're going to go ahead and square both sides, right? And when we do this, this is going to leave us x on one side, and then the square root of 25, which is 5 on the other side, right? So this is going to be 5, but remember, it could also be -5. So when we answer this, we have to put plus or minus, right? Negative or plus or minus 5. And that should be our answer for this one. You can see here, yep, we took the square root symbol, put it over both. Since it could be plus or minus, it's plus or minus 5. All right, number 3, this is x squared equals 0. So, well, I'm going to try to save some time in the video by not working out every one of them. Again, we'll put the square root sign over both. And because the square root of 0 is 0, this is just going to give me 0 as a solution. There's only one solution. There's no such thing as plus or minus 0. It's just 0. All right. You've got 2 and 4 to do. Number 5 through 14, solve the equations using square roots. So if I do this one, I'm just going to work this first one here. We know that we're going to add 16 to both sides. We want to get x squared by itself, okay? And that's going to go ahead and give me, this is going to give me x to the second power equals 16, right? And then we're going to put that square root symbol over both again. And that's going to give me x is going to be equal to plus or minus 4 because the square root of 16 is 4, but it could also be -4, right? So there you go, plus or minus 4 for my answer. I'm going to do the fast forward again over here. We're going to subtract 12 from both sides, leaving me with 3 times x to the second power equals -12, right? We're going to divide by 3, okay? Then we're going to have -12 divided by 3. That's going to give us -4. -4, you can't go ahead and get a negative number when you square something. So I'm pretty sure we're not going to have anything here, undefined. So again, we subtracted 12 from both sides, and that gave us 3x squared equals -12. We divided by 3. I'm just going to show the work that they're not showing here. And -12 over here from both sides. And then they divided by 3. -12 divided by 3 is -4. You cannot get a negative number when you square something. So it's just plus or minus the square root of -4, undefined, okay? Let's move on. You've got 6 and 8. All right, now we're looking at solve the equations again. We're using square roots. So now we're going to take this -98, move it over here. We're going to divide it by 2. 98 divided by 2 is going to give us 49, and 49 does have a square root of 7. So this should be plus or minus 7, right? Plus or minus 7. And again, we added 49 to both sides. We divided by 2. 98 divided by 2 is 49. And we know that plus or minus 7 will give us positive 49. Over here, we're going to add 5 to both sides. 5 minus 5 is 0. When we divide by -3, we're still going to get 0. And that leaves us with only 0 as an answer, right? They keep on putting plus or minus 0, but there's no such thing as -0, positive. There's just 0. So that's exactly what we did here. The reason they got 0 is they added 5 to both sides. When they did that, they have -5 plus 5. That's going to be 0. Then they divided by -3. And anything divided, 0 divided by anything is 0. That tells you it's got to be 0. There's only one answer, 0. All right, let's go ahead and go. You got 10 and 12. I'm going to go to 13. We're going to subtract 10 from both sides. That's going to leave a 1 over here. Then we're going to divide by 4. That's going to give me 1 over 4. When I put the square root there, I know I can get the square root of 4, which is 2. So the square root of 1 over 4 is going to be 1 over 2. All right? And of course, it could be positive or negative. 14 is yours to do. Now we got 15 through 20. Solve the equations using square roots. Now this time I've got x plus 3 to the second power equals 0. Now the whole thing is being squared, so what we can do is square both sides again. And that's what we did here. We squared both sides, right? And then that gets rid of the square root symbol here and just leaves you with x plus 3. And then over here, the square root of 0 is plus or minus 0. When we subtract 3, and that's what they did here, since they're adding 3 to x, they're minusing 3 over here. So now I have 0 minus 3. That's why I got a negative 3 here. Okay? And so x has to be negative 3. All right? Over here, we're doing the same thing. We're going to square up on both sides, right? And now we're going to have 2x minus 1 is equal to plus or minus 9. And that's what they did here. 2x minus 1 equal to plus or minus 9, right? Because we'll get the square root of 81. Now we're going to add 1 to both sides. And when we do that, I've got plus or minus 9 plus 1. Now remember, if this is a positive 9, right, this is going to give me 9 plus 1, which is 10. And I'm going to work both of these out because I want everyone to see where this is going. I'm going to work it out over here. So if this is x equals positive 9 plus 1 divided by 2, this is going to give me x equals 10 over 2. And that's going to equal 5. So that's where they got the positive 5 right here. But if this is a negative 9, then I'm going to have x equals negative 9 plus 1 divided by 2. And that's going to give me a negative 8. Divided by 2. And that's going to give me negative 4. And that's how we got the negative 4 over here. All right, so you have to do both of those signs with it to get both answers. All right, 16 and 18 are yours to do. I'm going to head off to number 19, solve the equation again. First of all, over here, since we're multiplying by 9, you can consider this if this was like 9x equals 16. You could see that you would divide 9 away to get x by itself. So consider this whole thing like x. We're going to divide it by 9 first, which means we're going to divide 16 by 9. And you can see right there, that left us with x plus 1 squared equals 16 over 9. Now that we've got that, we'll put the square root symbol over both because we're trying to get rid of that, that square sign, right? So now we're going to have x plus 1 equals plus or minus 16 over 9. And both of these we can get the square root of. Square root of 16 is 4. Square root of 9 is 3. So now I got plus or minus 4 over 3. So now we're going to subtract 1 from both sides, right? And that's going to leave us plus or minus 4 over 3 minus 1. So if it was a positive 4 over 3, we would be minusing 3 over 3, because remember, we need common denominator. And that would give us 1 over 3. If it's a negative 4 over 3, we'd be combining 4 and 3 to make a negative 7 over 3. And that's where they got the second one. All right, 20 is for you to do. Moving on to 21. 21 through 26 says solve the equation using square roots around your solution to the nearest hundredth. All right, so if I do this one, we're going to be taking this 6 and subtracting 6 from both sides. 13 minus 6 is going to give me 7. And then I'm going to basically have the square root of 7. Now the square root of 7 plus or minus 7 is plus or minus 2.65. Now you might be thinking, how do you know that? And now I'm going to do something uncharacteristic. I'm going to leave this just like it is, and I'm going to escape the screen here and discard all the things that I wrote. And now I'm going to come over here to the calculator. All right, now if we're putting square root of 7 plus or minus the square root of 7, I'm simply going to go over here and put the 7 and then square root, okay? And you can see where it comes up to 2.64, 2.645, and anything bigger than 5 we round up, so this would be 2.65. It really should be about and not equal to, but it does say round your answer to the nearest hundredth, so we are putting it equal to it. And because it's plus or minus square root of 7, it will be positive or negative 2.65, okay? And that's how we got that. I'm going to go to number 23 now. And again, we're going to add 9 to both sides. When we do this, we'll have 20 over here. And then we're going to divide it by 2, because we got to, I'm just going to show that work over here. And whatever I divide from one side, divide from the other. 20 divided by 2 is 10. Now I'm going to put the square root sign over both again. And the square root of 10 is plus or minus 3.16. Again, if you plug that in the way I did in the calculator, you're going to get 3.16 because it's positive or negative. It's positive or negative 3.16. You have 22 and 24 to do. All right, number 25, we're going to, well, now all they did was put it on the opposite side. Don't let that throw you off. We're going to subtract 15 from both sides. Remember, we're combining these like terms. That's going to give me 36 over here, negative 36. And so we're going to have negative 36 equals a negative 2 x squared. Then we're going to divide by negative 2, and 36 divided by negative 2, negative 36 divided by negative 32. And here's where they did it here. And they kind of did it backwards. I don't like the way, and that's why I was trying to explain it. I'm just kind of show you over here. Because they have the x over here and they put it over here for some reason. You really could write this as negative 2x, right, square plus 15 equals negative 21. And it really reads the same way, right? So what they're doing is minusing 15 from both sides. That's going to give you negative 2x squared equals negative 36. And then we're going to divide by, well, see, I think what they did here is they said, well, if they got a negative over here and a negative over here, they're going to cancel out, right? Because if I take negative 2, right, and I divide both sides by negative 2, that's going to give me x squared is equal to 18. Because a negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 36 divided by 2 is 18. And that's where they got x squared equals 18 right here. Now they put the square root over both, and the square root of 18, positive or negative 18, is positive or negative 4.24. All right, 26 is for you to do. I've got 29. It says a person sitting on top of a rowboat, top row of the bleachers at a sporting event drops a pair of sunglasses from a height of 24 feet. The function h equals negative 60x squared plus 24 represents the height in feet of the sunglasses after x seconds. How long does it take the sunglasses to hit the ground? Well, we got our formula here. Remember, 24 equals that 24 feet that were up there, right? And so they're wondering how long it's going to hit the ground, which means they're going to put x, or they're going to put the height at 0, right? So if the height is at 0, you can put h at 0 here in this formula, right? And now you can say, well, if this is so, I'm going to subtract. I'm going to add, we could have done this one of two ways. We could have put a negative 24 over here, but then we'd have 2 negatives on each side. This is the smart way. And so we're just going to add 16x squared to both sides. And as you can see now, we have 0 plus 16x squared. That gives you 16x squared. And now the 24 just comes down. And 16x squared minus 16x squared is nothing, so that gets eliminated. Now we're going to go ahead and say, well, we're going to have to divide by 16 to get that x by itself. So I'm going to divide by 16 here. And that's where they got x squared equals 24 over 16. Now what they did is put the square root symbol over both. And when you put 24 over 16, well, I know that I'm going to have a, they've got, in a calculator, it'll come up to 1.2, all right, plus or minus 1.2. And if you're wondering how to do that, let's see, I'm going to try to do it in the calculator here. Hold on a minute. All right, I came back over here. I didn't want to waste a lot of time with that. So what you do first is you do what's inside the right hand. So you're taking 24 and divide it by 16. It's going to give you 1.5, I think. There you go. And now you take that 1.5 and you use your square root symbol, and you get the 1.22. Remember, we're rounding this up, right? And if we do, we see that it's going to be about 1.2 seconds, right? 1.2. This is not bigger than 5, so we round it up to that nearest 100. All right? And so that's how we get 1.2 seconds. And of course, because it's plus or minus, it's going to be a positive or negative. But in time, there's no such thing as negative time. So it has to be a positive 1.2 seconds. All right? Well, that was all of them that I had to do. The rest of them are for you to do. Good luck, and I'll see you in class for grading.